Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about FANG companies. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, I was rejected by one of the FANG companies because I couldn't solve their nonsensical puzzles. Why did they insult me and waste my time with junk coding questions? Has anyone... could you share your interview stories? Well, yeah, I can. So, first and foremost, I want you to understand something, and that is that just because you couldn't cut it doesn't mean that the questions themselves were bad or that they were nonsensical or so forth. Uh, what I try to tell people is that the way that companies evaluate you is a little bit different from company to company, and there is no way for you to claim that whatever they are checking is the right or the wrong thing. And the reason why I claim that is because what do you know about what they value? Like, from your perspective, you know how to code right. But the reality is that if you ask me, at the very least, there's quite a lot of companies that I work with which have hired software developers who really shouldn't be there. They know how to code, but they don't know how to do it well. Not at all. So my point being here is that just because somebody asks you to like do something that's like young coding questions and so forth, I'm assuming here that they're not, like, since it's one of the FANG companies, I'm assuming that they have hired quite a few software developers in their day, and I'm assuming as well that quite a lot of them know how to produce code, considering that these companies are some of the biggest IT companies in the world. So the fact that you don't like how they do their interview process, I completely respect that, and I'm going to tell you my experiences because I feel the same way about a lot of stuff. But remember, it's not your company. And I tell this to people all the time. Don't take these things all too personally, because literally, if the FANG companies changed today and decided we are only hiring people who know 100 decimals of pi by heart, or we only hire people who have gone to clown school, they can come up with any. Like, imagine this. Imagine the people. I think they had at Netflix, like wokeness counselors and things like that, like people who were supposed to help with diversity and things like that. What do you think the interview looked like for them? Guys, people have all kinds of ideas what's going to make a good employee and what's important in their organization and stuff like that. There's tons of them. Like, I've been in some startups where, like, part of this, like, literally part of the interviewing process was just to go around the office and talk to random people. That was part of the interview. You had to do that. And there are tons of these guys. Classic one is the ones that I usually fail, which is where this thing that you're talking about, if it's puzzles or stuff like that. Exactly. Like, I would like to say that I'm decent at writing software and creating products and like doing software development, but I'm not really great when it comes to mathematics, for example. So if they have a lot of different types of mathematical questions for me, I'm going to crash and burn. A lot of these different logic puzzles or something like that, I'm not going to pass that either. So I've been like, guys, I've done interviews where they wouldn't even see me. They wouldn't even check if I knew how to code because I failed their logic puzzles, like their quizzes and stuff like that. And sure, I can sit here and I can be bitter about that and say that, oh, they don't know what they're doing, or blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, it's their choice. If they care more about someone who passes their puzzle than someone like me who have the experiences that I have and so forth, it's up to them. And I'm not going to say that that there isn't some justification for this, but to feel a little bit like, okay, what the fuck is going on here? Because there are a lot of weird interview questions and things like. I'm not saying that everything is always your fault, but I'm saying is that it's a little bit immature, in my opinion, at the very least, to basically say that anything that you are not good at or anything that you can't do is like it's somebody else's fault. That's because that is what I am like reading into this. You're basically saying that they are deliberately trying to make things hard on you so that you won't get the job, or that they're wasting your time because they're testing you on things that are irrelevant. Well, if it's relevant to them, who are you to say otherwise? You can feel otherwise, but unless you literally are the guy and or girl, or like if you are on the board of directors, then go in there and tell them, yeah, this is bullshit. Because they hear it all the time. I promise you, they have a lot of candidates who feel exactly the way that you feel. And when it comes to me, my interviews and processes have usually looked exactly the same. About one or two companies over all the years I've done this, where I've been outright denied due to this exact thing, where one or two or three or something like that of all the interviews I've ever done have been this sort of thing, right? Everything that had to do with like pure programming things, like if it's been a logic thing or something like that, I usually crash and burn on mathematics or stuff like that. Always been crashed and burned on that every single time, I think. And when it comes to like coding things, I've usually passed those. Like if it doesn't matter if it's a computer science thing or a like a more practical, like build a small application type of thing, that's usually something that I have passed. Not in the early days when I was really junior, but for the most part since. And so I'm pretty happy about that, because it's something that I'm fairly good at. Well, I would like to think that I'm fairly good at. And as I said, I don't look at that as like a big deal. Because as I've said before, guys, like imagine being an actor or something like that, or as I was saying, a kindergarten teacher or something like that, or you're going to be an au pair or like a nanny or something like that. They can literally dismiss you because they don't like your hair, or because you are too big, too small, too like whatever. Like there are a million professions, guys, where the employer can have an arbitrary set of criteria for whatever the hell you can imagine and judge you based on that. And sure, you can feel that that's kind of weird and so forth, but at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to do the hiring. So for me, if they don't want me to work for them, that's okay. Sort of like, to quote every single breakup in movie history, it's their loss. And that is exactly how I argue, how you should think about it. And the thing that I really want to stress here as well, that's the healthy thing, I argue, for you to feel like it's their loss and then move on to the next thing, because there's a lot of fish in the ocean, etc., etc. But the thing that is dangerous is that when you get to a point where you convince yourself that just because you didn't pass that thing, that there's nothing for you to improve upon. I used to suck, and I'm still not the best in the world at, say, these more algorithmic computer science-y heavy types of challenges. And so what do? Well, I feel shit when I fail, and then I go and I try to improve a little bit, so the next time I might be a little bit better at it. My mathematics sucked at it for quite some time, so what do? Well, I can sit and I can feel like, yeah, this is bullshit, why do I need this, I'm just a programmer, etc., etc. Or I can sign up to Khan Academy and take some courses. So what I want you to take away from this is that, well, my interview stories are pretty much the same. Quite a lot of companies usually just go with the coding interview or something like that I felt I could handle. In some cases I've had these logic puzzles, and that usually doesn't go so well. It's not always mattered. Sometimes it has, sometimes it hasn't. And I have also been rejected for being the wrong personality, like culture type and things like that. That's also happened once or twice, like not being the right type, the right guy or the right person for this thing. And what I suggest to you is that you treat it exactly as a talent show or whatever. These are judges at a company who have some value system, and in their case they clearly feel like it's important for you to be able to handle logic puzzles, because according to them that is a way for them to figure out how smart you are. And I'm not going to go as far as to say that that is completely true, but I'm also not going to go as far as to say that it's even relevant, because as I've said, just because you can produce some code doesn't mean that you're any good at it. I've seen it 100 times. I see it every single day. Software developers who are quote-unquote senior, who barely can barely get by, the only thing that they really know how to do is that they can write code, but they can't actually solve any of the problems or anything like that. Everything is always going to shit. And the FANG companies, especially Google and so forth, like they have like famously said that they don't like this sort of situation, and I can understand, because I know how it is to work in that environment and how tricky it is to get anything done when you have software developers like that. So as I said, their loss, that's a good mindset, but don't dismiss your own improvement, I urge you, because Yeah, your ego might feel really great about that you're perfect and everybody else is just stupid because they don't see how perfect you are. But if you keep on seeing this over and over, well, at least me, I'd like to think that my ego is a little bit flexible there, and sometimes you might just have to accept that you suck at some stuff. Have a great day.